Does it matter that there's a crying baby, or does that kind of feed into the audio? So I wanted to be a mom since I was a little kid, and I wanted it so badly that as soon as I got married, I was pregnant with twins immediately. And what was so interesting was I knew I wanted to be a mom, but I really had no idea what to expect.
I think the motherhood transition begins when you decide you're going to start trying to conceive. And then you go through conception, pregnancy, labor and delivery, postpartum. So it's the actual physical process of the transformation of your body is a huge part of the motherhood transition.
I think it's so interesting how society treats pregnant women, and they revere their bellies so much. They can't even help themselves from touching it. They think you're gorgeous and glowing. Everyone's opening doors and treating you with so much love and respect. And then the second the baby is out of your body, you know, all of a sudden the belly has no more sacredness, and we are expected to bounce right back to where we were before we had our children.
Because in America, unfortunately, like, we don't have an excellent respect for the postpartum period. We say, oh, 6 weeks, like, good to go, see ya. Or you're expected to go back to work 3 weeks later if you're working like a really intense job, or you're 3 months postpartum still at home and like no one cares anymore because it's not a brand newborn, like the excitement's gone.
So my transition was pretty quick. I got pregnant with twins on my honeymoon, so I had to identify with this role as wife and mom of two really quickly. And I had a form of postpartum anxiety because my children were premature. At 32 weeks, I delivered. My first child came vaginally, and my second had to be an emergency C-section. And so I missed out on a lot of that early bonding, the skin-to-skin time, and my, first interaction with them was in an incubator. And I wouldn't say that I was depressed. Like, I didn't feel like I was crazy, sad. Of course, I felt a little guilty and ashamed that I couldn't keep them in my body for as long as I had hoped. But I had anxiety. And I didn't even know that postpartum anxiety was a thing, but I started getting obsessed about doing everything that I could for them because I felt out of control in so many ways that I was overly controlling with my pumping, with my visits to the NICU or the neonatal intensive care unit. Once I went home and I was recovering from the C-section and the vaginal delivery and I wasn't able to drive, I was in an Uber at 5 a.m. to be able to get to the hospital in time for the first feeding. And nurses would look at me and be like, what are you doing here? You should be resting, you should be recovering. And my recovery didn't even occur to me.
There's a lot you can't control. Like, you don't know what kind of birth you're gonna have. You can have an ideal situation and have your plan and everything is like, okay, it's gonna go this way, and then all of a sudden it goes another way. So you can't necessarily control an outcome. And I think not getting attached to the outcome is something you can control.
And so that anxiety, it was pretty severe at that time, and I got a lot of help. And, things got better, but it never goes away completely. But we create tools to manage the anxiety. And also, I know that my anxiety isn't necessarily reality. And so separating myself from that is great. And part of the way you do that is by bouncing it off other people, sharing with other people, talking to people, saying like, hey, I felt this way, and then having another mom be like, oh, that's classic mom guilt. And you're like, mom guilt? What's mom guilt? And all of a sudden, this idea of mom guilt is like a real thing that we all have.
Yeah. I think just really feeling like, wow, I'm not alone. Like, there's other moms who I can connect with. There's men around the gym who honor the postpartum period, and they see us like doing our best. but it is also an extreme emotional, mental, developmental transition and transformation too. Something that Logan says is transcend and include. Right? So you're not who you were before, but you are. You know, like I'm still me, I'm still Emily, but I am this entirely new person at the same time.
And loving myself, even though I had challenges in childhood, and I know that my children probably will too, because I can't control everything, but I know that I can create a home that feels safe. And so I get to bring in a little bit of my wild side, a lot of my values. I get to introduce them to my hobbies, and most importantly, my community, you know, to build that village around us of people that they can look up to as well.
Like, it's not just this, it doesn't end. You know, like the postpartum period doesn't end. It's forever. So really acknowledging that is what you can expect from this class.
In America, in this society, we've lost respect around postpartum especially, but we view pregnancy as this fragile state. And it's not. Like, these women are the most beautiful, strongest versions of themselves. Like, they're literally carrying life inside them. How we treat a woman in her postpartum period, like that whole year, influences her health for the rest of her life. It's a new chapter. Like, that old version of you, that chapter is closed. It's still part of you, but you're an evolved person. Like, you've evolved to the next level, and that's such a freaking beautiful thing.